Hello and welcome to today's video. Now this time we're going to be having a look at all the books that I picked up during the month of October 2021. Now this video is going to be predominantly Penguin heavy because I was very lucky in that I was able to get a nice batch of vintage Penguin books, almost 100 I think in total, from Penguin dealer Drew, the Penguin chap, in fact, online. And he recently acquired a huge run of vintage Penguins, and I was lucky to get a nice batch of later 60s ones, which I think are particularly interesting. As well as that, I did get a few vintage Penguins in my collection, a couple of unusual ones such as these ones, and a nice early one which was one off my list of titles that I was still looking for in first edition. I picked up a nice little batch of about a dozen Mickey Spillane 60s crime titles, which I'm looking forward to cleaning those ones, and an odd hardback or two. So that is what we're going to be having a look at today: cleaning, restoring, and basically admiring these lovely books. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so we will start off with Claudius the God here. Now, I have actually got these in regular Penguin paperback, but these particular ones, if you have a look inside, they are actually for the Prisoner of War book service. So I particularly like these Prisoner of War books. I've only got a handful, but I'm looking to increase my collection of them. So that was really, really good. So I've got the pair here. And even in the regular Penguin run, they're quite difficult to find. But these ones in the Prisoner of War issues are especially difficult to find. And in fact, I did showcase my other couple of Prisoner of War issues in a recent video where I sort of valued like the most collectible Penguin titles, and I mentioned the Prisoner of War and Forces Book Club issues at the same time. So these, in actual fact, they do actually need a little bit of work. So both of them have got like a pencil price inside, which I'll get that out in the top corner. And this one here just has that bottom end of the spine needing re-gluing. Same with this one actually. So, but apart from that, they're actually in remarkably great condition. And when you think about the Prisoner of War book service, you have to consider what they were produced for and you know, their actual life. So these were printed by Penguin at the height of the Blitz, so paper rationing was definitely a thing. There's a little 20p on the front here. Paper rationing was definitely a thing back then, so the quality straight off the bat of the paper that these are printed on is not great. I believe these are 1940, March 1943. So these are quite, these are right in the middle of the war. So the paper's poor, although these are fairly long books. So, in fact, it was such a long book, they split it into two. So they're a bit thicker than some wartime Penguins. And then they were designed to be bought almost like a subscription service. So if a family member had, say their husband was caught in Europe, this is during the Second World War, of course, and then had ended up in a prisoner of war camp, then potentially the family member could get them their subscription so that they had something to read. And these ones were specifically printed by Penguin for Allied prisoners of war who were in captivity. So printed during the war, very low print runs on very poor paper, designed to have been sent overseas, for starters, then to be no doubt read and reread several times in their lifetimes whilst they were passed around from prisoner to prisoner within the camp. And then somehow this copy has managed to make it all the way back to the UK. So you have to wonder what sort of life this book has actually had. Now, in actual fact, Claudius the God in Prisoner of War edition, I've seen a couple of sets of this just this year alone. and even though they're rare, it is almost making me think that this particular title didn't get so far as, maybe it just didn't, this particular copy had quite a large print run, and these just never actually got sent overseas, which is why that potentially a few more of them turn up today than maybe some of the other ones. There is no definitive list of prisoner of war editions, and I've got a few which aren't listed on Penguin First Edition, so I'm going to scan those ones to add to that database. But even so, it's a very inexact science, shall we say. But that's part of the fun of collecting these. You never know really what you might come across in a prisoner of war issue. So, my eyes are peeled for some more, but we'll just have to wait and see what turns up, because I suppose, like quite a lot of Penguin collectors, I've got so many of the early titles now, and there's so little left to collect, except, the constant upgrading, really, which doesn't interest me massively, because once I've sort of got the book out of the way, yes, it's always nice to have a better copy, but, I just like to search for something else, So I guess we'll just have to see, but it does appear as if fairly recently there's a couple of collectors who've started listing their real rare penguins, some of their like Forces book clubs and things like that online, and for that reason alone, there may be quite a bit of good stuff to be had. So I shall keep you posted with what I find in the coming months and years, probably, because this is the sort of thing that takes a long time to amass anything like a collection of, because they're just so scarce. But that's that one looking as good as pos, and this one, it's just the bottom of the spine there that needs a bit of gluing. Now, this is the first time I'm using two microphones, so dual microphone recording. So what I'm doing, I've got my traditional like lapel mic attached to my t-shirt, so it's really close, and then I've got my Yeti mic, which is the one I have been using for most of my videos. I've got that one to the right of me, sort of closer to the books, so when I clean the books, what I'm going to do is at the end of this, when I get to the editing stage on this video, I'm going to edit the two soundtracks together whilst I do the video, and hopefully it's going to create a better overall sound, so you'll be able to hear the books being repaired. Let's come up, look at that. So the books will be repaired, and also the trick is I'm hoping that I don't sound quite as echoey as I have been on some of my recent videos, because believe me, that really does get me down. I know audio is such a big problem, and I am, believe me, working on it. Now that does, in actual fact, so they were lovely, that does actually bring me on to my next subject, I suppose, really, which is the studio. So it's all about getting the best possible quality for you going forward, and the dedicated studio has come about very quickly. So now I guess that the peak for the builder is over. They're free to do some other work now, and I'm delighted to say that at the moment the studio is due to be erected in the garden, sort of second or third week of November, which is, as I film this now, it's not far to go. That's absolutely immaculate, isn't it? That's not very far to go. So you never know, I may be filming. Well, actually I won't, because once the actual building has been done, it's then going to take me some time, probably another month, to get the electrician round, to get the lighting put up, and also to get it soundproofed. So I have investigated into that's beautiful. I have investigated into getting the studio soundproofed, and I know what to do. It's something I can buy off eBay, these great rolls of foam like pyramids that I'm going to stick to the that I'm going to stick to the inside walls of the studio, because basically, although I call it a studio, it is really only a glorified shed, but it's going to be well protected. It's going to have a couple of windows there for in the summer if we want to just use it as somewhere to sit out in the garden. And it's not in a massive sunspot, but it's in quite a nice sunspot. So I think it will double up once the area around it has been sort of put some paving stones down, a bit of patio. It will look really, really nice. So a couple of things I've thought about whilst I've been, I need to do the tops of these, whilst I've been thinking about the studio, of course, is if it rains really heavily whilst I'm out there, is the rain going to be so heavy that it's going to really bounce around on top of the roof of the shed, meaning I won't really be able to record if it's raining too heavily. So that's something I'm going to need to monitor, really. I am intending to soundproof the ceiling, of course. Literally, it will be all the walls, and I'm going to carpet or put a big rug in the base, so it's going to be as less echoey as possible and have a really nice sound on it. I'm going to have a microphone coming down sort of in front of me, like there. So the microphone will be in front of me, unless the way that I'm doing it now by using a couple of microphones simultaneously proves to be the way to go going forward. So as I said, the one that I'm doing today, this is the first video I've tried this on. So it's a bit of an experiment, but because these are traditionally long videos, I thought, well, what better way to test it? So the next few, the majority of the books I'm going to pick up today are going to be from, or show you today, are going to be from that big collection that I bought from the Penguin chap. And it's sort of the 60s period. There's a few 50s, but predominantly 60s. This is 1963. They're all first editions, and they're all in particularly nice shape, as in they look virtually unread. But I am just going to sense check each one, make sure there's no writing. A lot of them have got that person's name in, just in the corner there, and that must have been the original owner. But I'll go through these and we'll clean them as we go. So the actual process for getting the shed has been basically funded by you guys. So it's been something since I've been on YouTube. I have wanted to get a dedicated studio, since the actual YouTube process has become a success, and I am making some money each month from YouTube. So I've not spent any of it. I've put it all into that's a nice one, isn't it? I have put it all into a savings account to pay for my studio, and that's what I'm going to blow it all on. But that's absolutely fine, because it will mean I'll be able to film a lot more, and I won't need to pick my days when I actually get the opportunity to film. So like today, my wife is a teacher. She's gone into university. My son is at school. So and I'm on a day off from work. So for today, it's worked out absolutely perfectly. But it won't always do that, and I can't really rely on working around all the heavens aligning, as it were, just so that we can all just so that I can do these videos. So it'll be really, really nice to be able to do these at any sort of time of the month. And also it may be that I need to do some in the evenings, because my weekends are going to be sort of my family time, so having a studio has so many advantages. I can leave the lighting equipment all set up, obviously the microphones. It's going to be great, So these are definitely going to need a bit of a polish, which is something I'll do at the very end. But at the moment, I'm just going to get any pencil writings done, and also brush the tops. So when I've got a big batch like this, I'm just going to use the shoe brush, which has proved to be great to do books en masse, as it were. Lovely. So as I said, I'll go through and clean them all internally, get any marks and bits and pieces off, and then I'm going to go and go through and I'll do some polishing of certain titles. So yeah, so the studio then, it's going to be great. Now I will of course film as much of the process as I can, but you know, it could well be that they get this thing done in a few days, and it's days when I'm in work, so I'm not really going to be around to see the progress. But if it's a day when I am at work, I'll try and film in the morning before I go in, or I'll film as soon as I get home, so you can at least see the process of it being erected. And I'll definitely show you some, you know, the area where it's going to be, sort of before anything's been built on it. But it's certainly going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's quite exciting, to be honest. It really, really is. And we'll just have to see how it turns out. Hopefully for the best. This is a little run of these new books that were actually laminated. So I'm not a huge fan of lamination, but sometimes you know, you just have to accept them. There's some good titles in here, you know, but it is what it is. Some of the books were laminated, but not many. Just about, I think it was about 20 in total. This is a slightly earlier one. 1438, yeah, 1960. This one, Patrick White. So some of these have got just little bits of dirt and stuff on, which hopefully is not underneath the laminate, and that I'll be able to polish off fairly easily. Yeah, so that's been cool. Now, the other thing, of course, which we've been doing quite a bit of lately, is the new channel. So I've got, for anyone who doesn't know, I have done, I launched fairly recently. As I film this, there's still only 3 videos on the channel, but I just do one a week. So there's just going to be one new channel, and it's going to be every Saturday. So every other Saturday will be something brand new while I build up a bit of a catalogue. And then on the Saturdays when I don't put up literally a brand new video, I am doing some, like, from the archive. Basically, I've taken some of my older cleaning videos, and I've taken out a lot of the bells and whistles, which to make it like a completely, like, relaxing experience, basically. Because a lot of people, a lot of feedback I get is people like to just sort of zone out, as it were, have these on in the background while I'm cleaning and chatting about books, which I'm more than happy to do. There's some real interesting ones here and there. So if you've not checked out my new channel, and obviously I'll put a link to it right now, please do, because it's still very new, and I'd like it to get to 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. This one's got a bit damaged actually with the tape, but apart from that, it's actually a nice copy of probably quite a obscure title. Probably the same on the front here. Yeah, the tape's got damaged, this one, which is a bit of a shame. Not a great deal I can do on that. I can't just take the plastic cover off, so I'm just going to have to live with that. It's not the end of the world. Let's pop those back a bit further. So yeah, the new channel is called Unintentional ASMR, because I'm not filming ASMR videos, because that's where people talk really softly and they touch and feel the books, and that's not something that I can do, because I'm here to do a job. I'm here to clean the books up and get them looking as good as possible before they get added to my collection. So it is unintentional ASMR, in that people I just enjoy the sounds of me cleaning the books, and that's basically what the channel is. But I do also talk about what I'm doing as well. So the format is basically, I'm going to try and clean up my entire book collection, and I'm doing it systematically. So because the bulk of my paperback collection is Penguin and Pan books. I'm going to do, the format is I do like a Pan book, then one from the archive, then a Penguin book video, then one from the archive, then another publisher, so in this case it's going to be digit number 1, then one from the archive, then I'm back to the start again where I'll be doing like Pan books part 2, then I'll do one from the archive, then Penguin books part 2, then one from the archive, then digit books part 2. But once I've done digit books part 2, that's all the digits done, but I've still got thousands of penguins and pans to do. So basically it's going to be a nice little mixture of stuff. Eventually I am going to drop in some non-book related cleaning videos in there as well, where I've cleaned some old Star Wars toys and things like that. So just to mix it up a little bit, but look out for that. But the channel's off to a great start. I mean, it's only 3, as I film this, there's only 3 videos gone out. And it's over 200 subscribers, so it's off to what I consider a great start, to be honest, so that's good news. But do check it out, do hit the subscribe button, because it would be lovely to get it to 1,000, and I can sort of relax a little bit, because it's been a lot of effort making a new channel, it really is. But I do enjoy the process, and it's been great to go back over the collection now for all the stuff that never went through this treatment when I got it, you know, stuff that I picked up over the decades, as it were, really. Oh no, where's my rubber gone? Here we are. This is actually a Puffin that I was after, a fairly scarce little Puffin book. And had a 25p inside. There we are, which we've just about got out. Yeah, 6 Great Englishmen. Well, I recognise, well, that's obviously Churchill. I think one of those is Shakespeare, is it? Oh no, Sir Francis Drake, Marlborough, Samuel Johnson. Unusual title for a Puffin, Puffin 136. Look at this, Assassins. Quite a late one, that. And these are the books, I think, because they're 50 to 60 years old now, I think the time to get these sort of 60s penguins is now. Now this is good. This is one of the ones off my my main Penguin Wants list. I've actually got a pretty nice copy of this one, but it's a reprint. I think it's a reprint in a wrapper as well, but this was the first, so it is one off the list. So I do just need 6 now to have the first 1,000 in first edition. So let's have a little look. It's got a bit of pencil. Now, I need to be super careful here because look how toned and fragile this bit of paper is. It's got a 2015 in, so it's with an air of delicacy that I'm trying to see if I can get that out or not. If I can't, I'm going to just leave it. It's not really moving it. Oh, it is coming out now. What I'm worried about is that the paper is so brittle that if I do this hard, it's just going to pull the entire corner away. And the book's in damaged enough condition as it is, to be honest. But for these last few that I need, I'm happy to take them in any state. I mean, literally any state. So that's got that out, okay. Looks like it's already had some amateur repair work done over the years, which is not uncommon in books like this. But yeah, interesting that this particular one, which isn't that rare, has just taken me quite a while to get. And I think the reason why is because for a long time, because I already had a really, really nice reprint, I just ignored it. I just didn't prioritize it as one that I wanted to get in first. But I am pleased that I've now got it. It's not great. I mean, it really is. You know, it's got a bit of a, you know, it's just generally worn, isn't it? There's a little spot of something on the front there, but that's come off now. A few splashes of coffee and what have you. Not a lovely reading experience, but it's a rarity and one to have. Treasure, this one. But, yeah, glad to have it all the same. It's like, yeah, it's like little bits of glue and dirt. It's certainly not. It's been through the wars, shall we say, quite literally. But it's okay. Then we got this, which is like virtually out of a time machine. So it could go in my time machine video that I am, or not quite, which I'm sort of putting together. So books that are literally mint, and they, regardless of their age. And I've got some from the 1930s that are like that. They are going to be in a fun video that I've got planned called Books from the Time Machine, and it's going to be books that are just super mint. Now, obviously, you can see the Devil at Saxon Wall there, and that's the one I'm mainly concentrating this pressure on. But it's already lightened that one up quite a bit because it's probably never had the treatment. But the real proof in the pudding will be that top edge there. So have a close look at that now. Oh, and in fact, the top edge of that puffin is quite dirty as well, isn't it? So let's see how we get on lightening these up. Yeah, don't think we've done too badly there. It's about as good as they're going to get, I think. Cool. Okay, so we'll crack on with some more of these 60s ones here. And I have to say, by having the lapel mic in place rather than my sort of big Yeti mic, I do have a lot more room to play with. I mean, I know you can't see it at your end, but believe me, I do. So I'm happy because of that. And there's some real great titles in here, isn't there? Really, really some good stuff, which I'm very, very pleased to have. Someone was obviously a big Penguin fan to collect so many. But I did have that. There was a chap who, when I went to Modbury, I remember a little while back, I did some, after the lockdown had been lifted in the UK, I tried to go back and do some local bookshops, and I went to, not Modbury, Honiton, because that particular town has got 3 second-hand bookshops plus a few market stalls and charity shops in the town, so it was a good time. It was a good excuse to do it. And the bookshop on the hill, as well as the bookshop at the bottom of the hill, they both basically bought a collection of Penguin books from the same guy. But what I think happened was, I think the guy split the collection, the seller split the collection in 2 and sold half to one book dealer and half to the other, and possibly because he just didn't want them to he didn't want to break the bank in both shops, as it were, you know. And I remember I was driving through Honiton. What a beautiful copy this is, isn't it? As I said, a lot of these were absolutely minter. So I was driving through Honiton and I went past the bookshop at the bottom of the hill, and I almost crashed because the window was absolutely stuffed full of vintage penguins. I thought, oh, slammed on the brakes. Oh my God, look at that lot. So I went in, and I think they just had them basically. So they just, the guy had just come in. So I filled my boots basically and bought a huge load of them, and they were all very reasonably priced, between £1 and £2 each. And I just sort of picked up everything that I knew off the top of my head that I needed. But there was some real classics I picked up there, so I was very pleased with that. And then it was months later before I went to the bookshop at the top of the hill, and he basically had the balance. So there you go. I think I did all right. It would have been ideal, of course, if the guy selling the collection had just contacted me straight away. But you know, I'm not a bookshop, and unless he watches these videos, which is unlikely, he wouldn't have anything about me. However, if you know someone who's looking to get rid of paperback collections, you know, whatever they are, pre-1970, it doesn't matter what the publishers are. I really like buying in bulk, so and then just selling the doubles on. So that's what I'm very much into. I've said it many times, and I've still really not done a lot about it, but I do have big runs of vintage pan books spare still. I've got about 6 boxes stuffed with really nice condition, high grade pan titles. So if anyone's after any, if you could drop us a list, I'll gladly check that list out for you. And if I've got them, you know, I don't want a lot for them. I just want them to go to a good home. Eventually they will all get eBayed, of course, but it's a long process, and it's not like I've got loads of time at the moment. I do just so many videos on YouTube these days. I don't have stacks of time. And that sort of brings me to my next point. So I was actually on a call with YouTube this week, and it was with my YouTube creator partner point of contact, I suppose. So I'm guessing that I've got to such a level on YouTube and I'm getting a certain amount of views. And I don't think this is based on your subscribers for 1 minute. I think it's based on the amount of views that you get per month. So I tend to pull in about 110,000 views a month, sometimes more, rarely less, to be honest. And you can there are various tools out there to sort of see how you stack up against other sort of YouTubers, and there's quite a few channels I follow who have subscriber bases of almost 50,000, for example, or 35, 40,000, which are getting less views than me. So I think the criteria for YouTube is the amount of views you get rather than just your subscriber count, which is very much a vanity number rather than anything else. So as much as, you know, whereas when I film this today, I've got 13,200 or thereabouts, you know, subscribers. This one's a bit worn. It's basically, it has got a little review slip in, look at that. Compliments of Penguin Books. It's always nice when you find little goodies like that would be related to this one. 1965, yeah. Just a shame the book itself is bushed, but if I ever get another one, I'll take that little preview slip out and pop it into a better condition copy. So that was really interesting. So the nature of the call, in actual fact, was about YouTube Shorts. So YouTube are very much, I guess, feeling threatened by TikTok and the rise and popularity of short form content, because a lot of YouTube stuff is long content, such as what I do. So I think they're worried that the youngsters' eyeballs, the youth of today, as it were, are just interested in short form content like TikTok and Instagram Reels, which I don't know, is that even a thing? I mean, do people really watch that? But so if you remember, a few months back, I did actually start doing some TikToks, and then I'd repurpose them to bring over to YouTube, but I literally just haven't had the time to film new content for it, because it's its own particular beast. It has to be in vertical format, which I really don't like filming in. That said, though, after the call, which I guess was the whole point of it, I did feel a bit more inspired to try and come up with some shorts. So I am going to give it another try. And one thing that I have done, I bought, because I didn't get one last year, BrewDog, which is a British brewer. I bought the BrewDog Advent Calendar. So what this is, it's a huge box with 24 beers in. And you open one beer a day up to Christmas Eve. So I bought this one, and what I thought I'd do, I have already filmed the unboxing of it, and what I thought I'd do, I'm going to do a YouTube short each day as I sample another beer from the selection. All right, and it's just a bit of fun. Obviously, I don't want to alienate my non-beer drinking viewers, but at the same time, I think it's something that let's do these Mickey Spillanes now. It's something which I've never done before, and it'll encourage me to do some regular YouTube short content, which is quite cool. And it's just a bit of fun thing to do, isn't it? Okie doke then. So I bought about a dozen Mickey Spillane, so really pleased with these. He's a great author, one that I've been getting into fairly recently. There's loads I've not read, and I am grateful to the fact that the books are actually very cheap to pick up these days. Maybe not all in first edition, but they are cheap to pick up. So this is a little corgi. I've actually got these earlier, smaller corgis. I've got pretty much all of these already. It's the later ones, which I was more, the 60s ones, which I was more pleased to get. So these will probably just go back into another little job lot once I've checked what to make sure I've absolutely got all of these. But they were dirt cheap. It worked out about 50p a book, so I didn't mind that. They were, and that included the postage, so that was pretty good, to be honest. So although they're a little bit worn, they're absolutely fine to read in a nice vintage form. Yeah, so that's a reprint as well. I'm not expecting these to be anything other than reprint copies, and in fact, yeah, that's a reprint, and it's in actual fact so poor, I'm not going to bother cleaning that one, because I'm not going to keep it. It's a reprint, and I know I've already got it. These other two, they're okay. I'll just give them a little bit of a dust off, and they are what they are, really. Let's have a look at this. So these are the ones which I don't have many of, maybe one or two. So these are the ones I was more pleased to get my hands on, because they're stories that I've not read. And yeah, this is a first. And these are very quick reads, but I like the jackets on them. Perhaps they're not as good as the American jackets, but they're still pretty cool. As I said, they were cheap. It was a cheap and cheerful read. So this is a reprint of one of the earlier ones, One Lonely Night. That has actually got a little bit of spine that needs gluing down there, so we'll do that while we're here. Doesn't look like they've got any writing inside, at least not so far. So maybe these were all bought from new by the same person, but they've certainly not been very well looked after. But they are okay to sort of chuck a few in your holiday travel bag. There we are. Look at that. That's just sorted that out, hasn't it? Lovely. It's actually much better condition. Bloody Sunrise. Tiger Man. There he is. He was quite long-lived, Mickey Spillane, and I believe in the later years of his life, that's the first, he was helped out by other writers in the genre to help him sort of maximise his back catalogue, as it were. Day of the Guns. Yeah, these are pretty good, these. They're just a little bit sort of on the worn side, that's all it is. But there's, on the whole, over half of these are first edition, so I'm pleased with that. But, you know, beyond doing the edges, they're going to need a very good clean, because they are a bit sort of grubby. Then again, they're almost 60 years old as well. Yeah, 64. I did pick up a very, very nice copy of I, the Jury in first edition, but without a dust wrapper. So I'm going to get the dust wrapper over from the facsimile dust wrapper company over in San Francisco. I've got that one, and I've got a first of John Wyndham's The Kraken Wakes, which needs a replacement dust wrapper on. But I usually wait until I've got about 4, and then because then it makes sense to get them in, because all in one sort of hit. So I shall, yeah, these are really dusty and dirty on top, so I'm going to enjoy cleaning these. So once I've got about 4 books that need wrappers, I'm going to place an order and get those done. I have actually got quite a little run of books that are waiting to be popped into archival Mylar wrap. These were very dusty. So I am definitely planning a few more dust wrapper videos as well. They're looking cleaner than what they did, let's put it that way. So they really just need the covers polished now, just to get off any sort of surface wear. Let's do these ones. As per usual, not too bad on the bottom and the sides, but where they've been on the shelf, that's where they picked up a few decades worth of dust and grime. And using this shoe brush, it sure is an effective method for books that aren't that delicate or valuable, you know. And these are very much picked up as there we are, reading copies rather than copies to be collected, you know, like rare first editions or anything like that. And then they got these couple of pretty tatty 50s ones, but I said I'm more than too fussed about these. But even so, they still deserve the treatment. Blimey, wonder if my toothbrush can get on the ends bits here. Seems to be where they're particularly bad. Well, let's clean them as good as they're going to get, which is not good. But, you know, it is what it is. Right, let's do another stack of these penguins, because these are all such lovely condition in comparison. They're not going to take too much to zip through. I mean, they're like virtually new, some of these, aren't they? They really are fantastic. And a lot of them from the same sort of collection. Maybe they read them and just read them very, very carefully. Maybe they worked for Penguin, or they worked for part of the production process, or possibly in publishing. A very nice collection came on the market. I mean, I suppose this was about 20 years ago, but I managed to get some at the time. And it was from the collection of H. Arnold. Now, he was there right at the early time of when Penguin were formed in 1935. He was the warehouse man, and he just kept one single copy of every Penguin that got published. And his sort of collection went up for auction. A couple of book dealers fought over it, and they sort of came to an agreement where if one collector was able to just have their selection of like 20 or so titles that they needed to finish their collection, then they would let the book dealer buy the rest of it, and that's exactly what happened. That one is stunning. Look at that, 1964. It's as perfect as you're ever likely to get. Very, very nice, that. These are going to look great. And to be honest, with later books, you know, post 1960, I have, in most cases, tried to stick to copies which are very nice grade, simply because that's how I want them, the more recent books. And I think it's paid off by being a bit stricter with them over the years. A bit like on my King Penguins, where I really, tried to keep the copies as nice as possible, and if they came in wrappers, I wanted them to be in wrappers. And I've noticed recently, so I did one of my regular monthly eBay auction watches, and it was on the James Bond books and the Ian Fleming titles, and obviously on the back of No Time to Die, the new Bond film. The prices, as I've seen this happen before, the prices on the Bond books tend to go up because there's renewed interest. But one thing I really noticed looking at the Bond books this month was that books that were in even like reprints and that, and books that you won't think were that consequential, in top condition, have gone for mega money. And I mean big money, because people are buying the quality. And it really was mint unread books from this sort of vintage on a collectible subject or author like someone like Ian Fleming. Absolute recipe for gold. And if you've not checked any of those eBay auction videos out, you should, because there's every month I am amazed by what turns up. So I just got about another dozen or so in this particular pile, and then we'll be over halfway. But as I film this on a Friday morning, I will pause there, and I'm going to go out and walk the dog for an hour because he needs his morning walk, as do I. Keep my fitness up. A big heavy one, this one. King Edward the 7th. And as I film this, thankfully it's not raining. So I've been very much getting into my Second World War history. So I've always been interested in military history, and I sort of have spurts where I get into it, and then I back off for a little while, then I get back into it again. And one of the channels I watch on YouTube that I've supported right from the when they covered the First World War week by week is what they're called Time Ghost, and they are basically covering World War II on a week by week basis, and they're up to about 1943 now, 1942, coming up to D-Day, and they're planning D-Day stuff now, and they do 2 or 3 videos a week now rather than one weekly one, and they cover the events in the war for that particular week. 70 years, 80 years later, and it's just fantastic. So highly recommended. So I've been watching them, trying to catch up so that I'm up to speed. So I've been watching those, and I have also been rereading, because I read these when I was in my early 20s. It was Winston Churchill's history of the Second World War. And I'm right in the middle of volume 1 at the moment. There's 6 volumes in total. I've got a particularly nice set to read called the Chartwell editions, and I am planning a video on the writing of that actual series. So I have done a video looking at Churchill's First World War history, the Great War, but this is something a bit different because he was one of the wartime leaders, and he was the only real leader to get his war memoirs put down. Obviously Hitler killed himself, Mussolini killed himself, Franco didn't do war memoirs, and neither did Stalin. Roosevelt sadly died in office, and he didn't get a chance to put anything down. So because of that, he was the only one of the real leaders who did actually get to put his side of the story over. Now, it's not a definitive military history, but it is Churchill's viewpoint of it. And, although, some of the facts are questionable, particularly as history has unfolded and certain secrets have been revealed. So it's not all gospel truth, but it's still, because Churchill wrote over 50 books in his life, it's written almost like a thriller. I mean, it really is fantastic, and it's unputdownable. It's such a great book. So I'm really enjoying reading that. So there we are. So I've got 2 more big piles of penguins to do and a couple of odd hardbacks. So I'm going to go and walk the dog, and I should be back in about an hour's time to finish off. You having a good walk, Royals? You having a good walk? Yeah? Come on then. Literally nobody in the park today, except me and Rolo. Right then, fresh back from my dog walk, and it was very quiet. It didn't rain, which is always good news. Weren't a lot of dogs for Rolo to play with today, but he did have a little bit of a run. Anyway, we've got 1 hardback to do. This is a war biography by Field Marshal Montgomery, or Monty. So Monty was one of Churchill's generals during the Second World War, and he, I guess, was encouraged to put down his war memoirs. He was a real national hero, and you really sort of forget that nowadays. But his war memoir it was expensive when it came out, 35 shillings when this was published. However, it's very cheap today. The trick is finding it in quite nice condition. So this one, in the end, I was a tiny bit disappointed with, but the price was excellent. So I got this for £12. But the copy was perhaps, shall we say, a little bit worse for wear. Now, unfortunately, it's in one of these dust wrapper protections that I don't really like. So I'm just going to try and get out of this. And this is going to be one that I'm going to revisit when I have my next book hardback protection session, which is going to be quite soon in actual fact. So we get rid of that horrible old thing. I really don't like those at all. So we can actually see what we've got to play with. So it's not perfect by any means, the dust wrapper, but it's certainly not bad. There's a few like closed tears, like that one. That's what they call a closed tear. So when it's down, you're not going to really see that. But it's not bad. Considering its age, I mean, really top condition copies of this one are changing hands for about £30. So for £12, including postage, that's not bad. And it is a book I desperately would like to read. So all I'm going to really do on this one, I don't think there's a great deal to clean up on it. It's got the original Bookseller's pricing, but yeah, it's quite common, this particular one. But I am it is one to be read, shall we say, if you're sort of a student of military history, which I wouldn't say I was, but I definitely dipped my toe in. I just don't have time to devote loads of time to it, but it is still a fascinating subject, and I think I prefer Second World War history to first nowadays. But it does tend to move in waves. But there's a little bit of foxing, as you can see, on the edges and that, but it's not the end of the world. As I said, I've got this predominantly to read, and it's still a beautifully produced book, very well illustrated. Got maps and stills of Monty in, so I'm super pleased with it. And of course, it's a first print, 1958. This one came out. Yep, I can't see any other marks, so all that really remains is just to do this top edge here. Which is bound to have picked up some dirt in the last 60 years. Which it definitely has. It's a shame it's a little bit spotted. I mean, the seller didn't really mention that, but you know, on the face of it, for £12, that's still a nice little buy, that one. And yeah, not a massive memoir such as someone like Churchill, but important all the same. So I shall get that one in a nice protective sleeve, and look forward to reading that one, probably once I've done my Churchills. The other author I wouldn't mind picking up some first editions by is Anthony Beevor. Now, I do actually have some of his historical war. They're not memoirs, they're just histories about different aspects, predominantly of the Second World War. And I have got some from my days when I was a bookseller, and I bought them when they came out, and they are really, really good. Another good author I like in that vein is Max Hastings. And I wouldn't mind picking up a few more of his, although I've got a few in my collection. Obviously, Martin Gilbert was another top military historian, and his books have got quite expensive of late, I've noticed. Now, I bet you this one's scarce, 1964 that one came out, Book on Physical Fitness. I bet that's super scarce. So yeah, we've just got 2 more piles of paperbacks to do, and then we'll get polishing. And obviously we're not going to polish them all, but we're going to polish some of them. So I'm just trying to have a little think about what else has been going on in the channel. So I've done my latest eBay prices video, and that was on James Bond, and I called it No Time to Buy, but it is a good time to buy, I suppose, because the books are great investments. But there has been some silly purchases by people out there, and some people have paid well over the top. But I guess you expect that now and again, don't you? And there were a few bargains to be had as well. So do check that latest eBay prices video out. I thought it was appropriate to do it on Bond specific, and I'm going to do a more general one next month unless something else comes along. I feel I did almost make it James Bond in June, but I have covered the June books fairly extensively in recent eBay auction videos, so I didn't want to labour the point. Suffice to say that the new movie has really hyped the June books as well, as you can imagine. And I did actually see the movie yesterday, and it's excellent. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm very much looking forward to part 2. They really pulled that off. So interesting, some of these books. I've just never seen them in the flesh. They've just been like lists in a catalogue. To actually see them is really something. Now obviously there's not a lot of crime here. They go for quite a bit more than I paid for these, but even so, these are equally as fascinating. So hope you enjoy looking through them as much as I do. Right, let's give these a brush. Just about hold them all together. These are pretty clean. They don't need a lot, this little lot. That's cool. Right, I think we better stop there and thank my Patreon and channel membership subscribers. So let's give them their round of applause for supporting the channel. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, back to it, and a couple of other odd Pelicans. So on the Pelican series, I was very lucky in that a bookseller friend of mine who was sort of downsizing a little bit and heading towards retirement, he decided to sell his extensive collection of penguins, but predominantly pelicans, to me very, very reasonably priced, and we're able to get them sent to me, and it was about 6 or 7 boxes at least of Pelican books. I was really delighted to come across so many in one hit. He didn't have them all by any means, and of course I already had a couple of hundred in my collection anyway, but it was an extensive run up to about number 600, and then after that it was a bit spotty up to about number 1000. So I thought it would be quite fun to try and get the first 600 in first edition, and of that 600 I reckon I'm now down to about Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd say no more than 40, possibly even less than that now. And then obviously after 600, it's much more patchy. And on the whole, they're pretty nice condition. In fact, some of them, I would say they're as good as these ones we've been looking at here. They're like mint and red copies, even the wartime ones. But I did get a few more this month. As you'll see, there's just a couple more here to add to the collection. And I've not shown the Pelicans at all on the channel, even though I've got some fascinating stuff in there, because I just don't think it's got the appeal that the other books have. However, do please leave me a comment if you'd like to see me start covering the Pelicans. I mean, eventually I'm going to run out of penguins to do, so I'm going to have to, I guess, eventually. But they've never really been through the cleaning process. Some of the wartime ones need a bit of repairing as well. A couple of them have even got like loose covers because they're so sort of delicate. But even so, if you'd like to see a bit of Pelican content, give me a shout. I am also planning a video now, since I recently completed them. I am planning a video on the Penguin Science News and Penguin Biology. Now, you might think that they were pretty boring titles, and there's between the two series, about 100 books in total, but they are quite fascinating. And each series has actually got a few little highlights which are worth knowing about, because just one or two books in the series are actually quite sought after for their content, and I just think it's like a fascinating little glimpse into one of the sub-series of Penguin as a publisher. And it's the sort of stuff that you, in a way, you sort of forget that they even did these sorts of books, when all you think of, when most people think of old Penguin books, they think of an orange penguin title, and that's not always the case. So definitely plan one of those. Cover design Mel Kalman. Recognise his sort of style of writing there. So what else have I been up to? Well, I've done a little piece for the next. That's the guy from The Prisoner. Who recognises The Prisoner? And that he was the butler, wasn't he? In fact, I think the guy's name was Angelo something or other. Was it Angelo Muscat? God, that's testing my memory, but I love The Prisoner, and he was definitely in it, and he was the butler at number 2's house. So yeah, what was I saying? What else have I been up to? So I've done the eBay videos. I've got a new Corgi Model Club video to film, so that's something which I've got a couple of... every month you get sent a brand new Corgi model, a classic re-release. So I know I've got the Saints Volvo to do, and there's one other that's been sent. So I've got that to film. I've also got a new phone. I've got, because I work for a mobile phone company, one of the perks is, at the moment I work for a mobile phone company, one of the perks is you do get the option of a cheap work phone at like 25% of the normal price. So I've splashed out a little bit, and I've got myself a Samsung foldable phone, and this one's actually this is the one recording the second lot of audio as well, but it comes with an unlockable screen like that. There we are, look. And I should be doing some emulator videos based on using that new phone to see how that works. That should be quite good fun, so look out for those in the foreseeable future. So I'm going to do a general emulator one. It's got a super powerful processor inside, which is what's sort of needed to run emulators nowadays. So I'm going to be doing that. And of course I've got lots to do on the new channel. I have also got, I'm going to be quite busy in my spare time once the studio's been built, because there's so much else to organise, not least of which getting it powered up so that we can get the lighting up and running. And then I'm going to do some research about getting the new studio set built, as it were. So I'm going to hopefully have some nice backdrop. That's a lovely one, Norman Mailer. I'm going to get a nice sort of backdrop which I can customise depending on the videos that I do. I'm going to try to do it so that I can have multiple cameras as well as multiple microphones running at the same time. So it will keep these sorts of videos a bit more interesting, because I can have one doing really close-up work as well as the more general one. It's just something that's going to happen over time as my skill set gets a bit better. And also I learn how to shoot video in the new studio, which is going to take a little bit of time, but it should be fairly straightforward. But there will be a bit of a transition period, and of course we are coming up to the busy time of year. It's November, December, so it's going to be quite busy just in general, but I, as you know, will do my best and keep the new videos coming thick and fast if I can. Lovely, another nice batch. I almost don't want these to come to an end because they're so lovely. Excellent. Slip them over there. Yeah, this collection has been remarkably well looked after by the look of it, just because there are so many of them in just excellent shape. Quite a bit of that one. Right, last stack to do now. So I've not done masses of writing this month. I've just been too busy, but I have done a piece for the next Penguin Collectors magazine, which is published in January, generally speaking, late December, early January, and it's a look at the different editions of The Day of the Triffids as published in Penguin Books, which should be pretty good fun. It's come out really, really nice. That very high quality publication, the Penguin Collectors magazine. Really well designed, laid out, and it's come out as a great piece. So I'm very pleased with that. I'd like to do more if I could. It's just having the time, because it does need to be, good quality. I don't want to just knock any old rubbish out, and you've got to do your research. But it's come out pretty good, so I'm pleased with that. And I find with writing, I have to just do it when the mood takes me. However, and I'd dearly love to do this, I am thinking of doing a book myself, probably self-published, but I'll get plenty of contributors who are in the world of vintage books and collectibles, and I think I'm going to do a book on the guide to collecting paperbacks, basically, and all the different things that people do collect with paperbacks, because I've seen so much great stuff. I've got another viewers collections video which I'm going to be putting together in a couple of days. That's good. And it's it's got some amazing stuff in. So it's got the collection of the chap who runs the Mad Museum, and they did just under 100 different Mad books, and he collects every different printing. He's got box sets, he's got signed copies. You've never seen anything like it. And I've got some video of that, which is just going to be awesome. So do check out the viewer collection videos. And also, although this is going to be the third one, and this is probably going to be the last one for a couple of months until I get more to work with, do feel free to send some photos of your collection, because I'm still on the lookout. I'd like to keep the series going, but this next one's going to be absolutely brilliant. It's got another friend of mine called Dale Santos, and he has a huge collection of Doctor Who original artwork. I think he's got 20 covers, which is incredible, more than anyone else in the world. He's got some of the very earliest ones, not the three earliest. They're owned by David Howe, but he has got some other early ones which are super iconic. So I look forward to sharing that with you. And in the last one of those viewer collection videos, I did get to share with you Justin Marriott from the Paperback Fanatic, amongst other things, his paperback collection, and Bob Dice, who runs the Men's Adventure magazine site. So there was some really cool stuff in that last viewers collection video, so I hope you enjoy it. Almost there, 2 more little wedges to do, and then we'll start the cleaning process. The man who won the pulls. Well, it wasn't me, sadly, because that would have been lovely. Oh, nice Gerald Durrell that I haven't got. He was a great author, you know. Most famous for My Family and Other Animals. He grew up in Malta. Great naturalist. Don't hear a lot about him anymore, but the TV series The Durrells was sort of based on his life. That's a very good little series. Speaking of which, been watching a few interesting TV series. So I got through the Squid Game. That was a bit of a laugh. Not bad, it's worth a watch. And I'm enjoying Succession at the moment, the new series of Succession. That's pretty good. And The Morning Show, which is on Apple. It's not bad. I recommended it to everyone I know, and it's For All Mankind, which is also on Apple TV. It's like an alternate history of the space race between Russia and the USA. Fantastic. Very, very well done. Each one's like a little movie. I really recommend that. So For All Mankind. It's fantastic. God, these really are fantastic, Nick. Oh, that's one by John Hershey. Not the greatest of covers, but he's an author I really like. He's super readable. John Hershey. Great. He's more a reporter rather than a writer, but wowee. Great writer. Yeah, these are pretty darn lovely, these. And I just like buying books in bulk like this. When the price is right and they're in nice condition, I don't think you can go far wrong. There we are. Let's get this last little wedge. Another one of those science surveys. Can't believe these sold, you know, but evidently they did back in the day. If you turned over corners there. Yeah, that's got quite a dirty old top there, so it's going to need a fair bit of buff in that one. Whereas that is lovely. Look at that. Just seeing so many of these from this period in such great condition. I mean, just incredible, really. Very, very pleased with them indeed. So don't forget, as I said, a lot of these came from Drew, the Penguin chap. He's got a great website. He adds stock weekly, I think on a Friday. So that's the day to check. And it's all very well photographed, which is lovely. I wish I had the time to do something similar with all my pan stock. Well, I say stock, and I've got a box of Penguin doubles as well, which really do need to be sorted. And I put up what I can on eBay, so in the description to virtually all my videos now, I've got a link to my eBay auctions down below in the description, so just go and check those out, because there's often bargains to be had, basically, for doubles from my collection. There's mainly that top edge there on that one. There we are. So that's all the books gone through. We've checked all the pages. None of them need any repairing. It literally is just the very last part of the process now, where we get the polish. My trusty friend here, Mr. Sheen, and give some of the more recent books just a gentle polish. Although, to be honest, a lot of these are absolutely fine, so they're not going to take that much effort to clean them up. So let's crack on with that now. So not everything is going to actually need a polish. So this, for example, is not. So I should whack that over to one side, and we'll sort of rearrange this ever so slightly. We're not going to need some of my cleaning stuff anymore, but we are going to need the duster. But the rest of it can go over there now, because that's not required. And, but the duster most definitely is. So I just use this soft cloth. Well worn after many cleaning sessions, and let's just get this initial pile out of the way. So I think all of that's going to need doing, in fact. So give the Mr. Sheen a good shake. Some of them will need a little bit more than others, but on the whole, I think we're going to be all right, and not need too much polish. So a friend of mine I used to work with, Steve, he lives in Bath, and he is now doing YouTube videos. He calls himself the Outlaw Bookseller. And he's predominantly science fiction. He's a published author. He's done quite a bit of stuff over the years. So he has started a channel, and it's sort of it's a mixture between sort of Hawkwind and Michael Moorcock and the Stranglers. So he does a bit of music and rock stuff, and then lots of in-depth dives onto particular authors. He's got a terrific science fiction collection. Anyone would be over the moon to own the sort of stuff that he does. Lots of limited editions and firsts, and his knowledge and relationship with so many big authors is incredible. He knows them all, basically, because he's been in bookselling all his life, and for that reason he's got lots of stories to tell, the same as me, and lots of memories of meeting some of these authors and collecting their books. So just along that sort of vein, today I came across Brian Lumley, the horror author's Facebook page. It's run by, I believe, his partner, and Brian Lumley's getting on a little bit now, so he doesn't really do much of the website himself. In fact, he really isn't publishing much anymore. But when I had the shop at Purple Haze back in the 90s, because he lived so close to me, we got to know him quite a bit, and the books we're doing, the Necroscope series, were becoming big sellers, and they also did a comic book series published by Malibu, and we sold those in the shop. So when the comic book series came out, we thought that was a perfect opportunity to invite Brian down to do a signing, which we did. He would also come down to the local science fiction group. I remember getting heavily drunk with him in my early 20s and having a whale of a time. But that would go for a lot of these guests back then. Ian Banks was another one. Did an event with Ian Banks, and it was a signing and a whiskey tasting session, if you can believe it. Because he'd written a book called what was it, something Spirit, and it was his like non-fiction look at the world of different whiskies. So in conjunction with a local off license, we did a whiskey tasting night as well as a session with him reading from his latest book. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. All went out for a curry afterwards, just brilliant, you know. And he was such a nice chap who was taken much too soon. I still got lots of happy memories and many signed books from that event, all personalised and real gems. But Steve, my friend in Bath, has got multiple stories. I'm sure you met Ian Banks quite a few times. He was a real friend to booksellers and would help them out when he could. I'll never forget that about him. Unlike Terry Pratchett, who was an absolute swine. So I did a few events with Terry Pratchett over the years, or I was at like conventions or events which he was also at, and he wasn't so great with booksellers. I remember the very first time our paths crossed, I wasn't there in like the capacity of on behalf of a book chain. I was just there as like an independent, so I had a few second-hand Pratchett's on my table, but that wasn't mainly what I was selling. It was like TV and film memorabilia, but I had a box of sci-fi paperbacks sort of under the table, you know, for the authors who were there. And McCaffrey was there was Terry Pratchett, there was can't remember a few other, there was a couple of like TV stars as well. No one massive, but you know what I mean, they were, you know, good to have them there. Anyway, the girl from the local Waterstones was there. They had a table full of Terry Pratchett stuff, but that was one of his very earliest signings, and basically they just sold out. And this was on a Saturday, and the convention was all weekend, including, I believe, the bank holiday Monday, and basically they just sold out of all Pratchett's books, and he went ballistic on her. So much so she was in tears. I thought, man, that's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. I can understand him. It is a bit embarrassing, you know, when you have an author come in and you literally run out of books. But that's also, you know, flattering as well. And she obviously went back to the store and she picked up every Pratchett book that the store had in stock. But even so, it was a very poor showing, and I've never forgotten that. And I know, you know, Pratchett, I can re-glue that. I know Pratchett's got his fans and what have you. But after that, seeing that particular thing and how he treated that poor bookseller, it wasn't her fault, you know. I was really disappointed with how he was, you know. And a few people have said to me that behind the scenes he was a little bit demanding, shall we say, you know. But, I mean, quite rightly, he was a best-selling author. I don't knock his artistic talent as a writer, but I just think, you know, he got a bit carried away sometimes, and that, I think, was, well, as I said, I've never forgotten it, and it put me off him a bit. So much so that even though when we had our shop and we sold a lot of Terry Pratchett, and I mean a lot of Terry Pratchett, I really wasn't that fussed about having him coming in. There's a lot of hassle, a lot of work, getting it organised, publicity and what have you. I was more than happy to let him go to the bigger Smiths, to be honest, because we still sold the books. It was fine, but yeah, a bit of a shame, really. And I'm sure if you speak to Steve, or if you check on Steve's channel, if he starts talking about Pratchett, I really do wonder what his memories are of him as well. I am trying to get Steve on to do like a live stream so that we can bring his channel to a bigger audience. But, do us a favour and go and check out the Outlaw Bookseller on YouTube. And you're not going to like everything. He's a bit like me. He's a bit of a mishmash of subjects, but maybe not quite as wide as what I have on here. But there's a lot of good stuff in there, and he does do regular book related content, so I think you're going to enjoy going through his channel if you get a chance. Yeah, a lot of these are absolutely fine. A few of them, it's just an odd bit here or there, really, which is just which you're taking off. But I think a lot of these were bought from brand new. I think they've just never been read, But I'm guessing that's the case, but I don't know for sure. So summer seems to have been and gone very, very quickly. I don't really know how it's gone so quick. Over here in the UK, as I film this, once again, there's talk that they might go to a plan B where they ask people not to lock down the country, but they're gonna, because cases are rising, but hospitalizations aren't. They're thinking of asking people to try and work a bit more from home, which is, fair enough. That's absolutely fine. I hope we don't go back too far and have to shut the shops and do things like that. I don't think that's going to happen. And I believe the situation is improving around the world. A bit of a warn-up on this, but I know not for every country, so if you're in a country still under some sort of lockdown, well, let's hope it just improves sooner rather than later for you. Yeah, that was quite a dirty one, but that's fine. I'm pleased to get this one. This is one of the Graham Greens that I didn't have, and I'm planning a dedicated video on Graham Greene. He's a great writer, but I haven't read them all, but I've read most of the classics, and but I haven't quite got his entire Penguin output yet, and this is one that I was missing, so I'm pleased to get this one, actually. Quite a thin little volume, this. And I have a suspicion it's probably quite scarce as well. Certainly for the Graham Greene completist, that. Shame it's got that little mark up there, so in search of a character. It's probably just a couple of extended magazine articles that have been put into book form. I wouldn't, so first published by the Baldy Head, Convoy to West Africa was published in the Mint in 1946. The Mint was a magazine, wasn't it? Like a literary mag, I believe. So, yeah, I think Graham Greene was obviously having a bit of a popularity splurge at that point, and the publishers contacted him a bit like they did when Hemingway passed away, actually. They sort of dug up every last thing Hemingway related that they could find and stuck a jacket on it and boom, published it. I reckon the same probably happened with Graham Greene at that point in his career when he reached a certain level of popularity. And sometimes when they rejacket a book, an author rather, they change all the jackets. They try and tie that in with something brand new that's never been published before, and that's another little trick that publishers do. As I said, these don't need a lot, but they do need just a little once over. Those Corgi Mickey Spillanes, however, are going to need quite a bit of a buffing up, but they should finish them off quite nicely. So even though I've not really been trying to buy that much stuff, I've ended up, the last few months, these videos have proved to be quite long, haven't they? But that, with the new studio coming up, I honestly am going to be too preoccupied with everything else to be even having the time to look for new books. So next month is probably going to be more of a general update on things, if I'm able to do it at all. Nice glossy cover, so I can just put this straight on. So we're going to have to see. It may just be that I have to skip a month if I've not picked up much, because I've been concentrating on the studio, and B, well, I literally not going to have the time to devote to filming it, because I'm going to be just basically preparing the thing. However, you know, I have got a little bit of time off in November, and I've got about 6 or 7 days in a little block in December. So I'm but not around the sort of festive period, so it's going to be all right. I will have some time to devote to videos. It's just, you know how it is. But all I can say is, you know, my audience is so loyal, and they keep coming back, that I know you'll stay with me if I end up having to take a small break whilst the studio is being built, and there will be at least something each week going up, but it may just be not the same frequency of 3 videos a week, but we'll see. Right, so that's the first wedge of these done and dusted, quite literally. So I'm gonna stick these in a little old pile over here, so I'll just whack them on top of Montgomery. So these have all been done now, and the last sort of step of the process for me, which I won't do on camera, is I'm going to get these into my I'll put them all in numerical publishing order, and I'm going to get them all catalogued into my Google Drive, where I keep a list of all my all the books that I need and all the books that I've got. And then at a glance, I can generally see exactly where I'm at and what books I need and which ones I've already got, which is dead handy when you're out and about in bookshops and that, and you don't exactly know what, or you can't exactly remember, and there's no way I'm going to be able to remember all of these, is there? So that's why it's vital to keep accurate and up-to-date lists of everything, which I try to do. Right then, let's get this wedge sorted. Give it another bit of a spray. It's interesting how much dirt is actually coming off some of these. They looked mint. They look even minter time they've had this this treatment. Really something. So in case you missed it, just a few weeks back I was a guest on a friend of mine's channel, the action figure grader. He's called John, and a really knowledgeable chap on grading action figures and comics and things like this, and he does these like little collector spotlights, so I was able to talk a bit about my sort of history in the world of books and collecting toys and other bits and pieces, a bit of my acting stuff. So if you are interested, once again, I'll put the little link in the description down below, so you can go and check out John's channel and that video in particular, as it's quite interesting. Have a chat for about an hour or so. I'd like to get John onto my channel again if I can at some point. Now there is also, since this is very penguin specific and penguin heavy, there is actually a brand new book coming out, and it's a look at the Penguin modern classics, their sort of history, and it reprints all the covers, and I think you're going to find it fascinating. So I have put a pre-order link in the description down below, and so you can get one before it's published on Amazon, and the link down below will take you exactly to the page, because it's actually quite tricky to find, if you can believe it, unless you know the exact title of it, because if you just type in Penguin Modern Classics in Amazon, you get thousands of books back, so you need to sort of know exactly what to look for. But I haven't got mine yet, but as soon as it's up, I'm going to obviously do a review of it for you. But it does look really fantastic, so I'm sure it's going to be of interest to people who watch this channel. And speaking of which, this is what reminded me, here's one of the few Penguin Modern Classics we've seen today. And it's interesting that although it's got the grey spine and back, the cover is black. It's not an author I know, Jean Genet, The Thief's Journal. In this, his most famous book. Genet charts his progress through Europe and the 1930s in rags, hunger, contempt, fatigue and vice. Spain, Italy, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Nazi Germany, Belgium. Everywhere the pattern is the same. Bars, dives, flop houses, robbery, prison and expulsion. And a cover by Alan Aldridge, the famous designer and artiste. Well, that sounds a bit like Down and Out in Paris and London, doesn't it? Except it's sort of across Europe. So, quite interesting, that. And he was in Germany in the early 30s. Yes, he would have seen the rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party. Well, we're almost halfway, because of course some of the ones that we did right at the start aren't going to need any they're not going to need any polishing at all, because they got matte covers, so we don't want to get any polish anywhere near them. But these other ones here with their 60s glossy covers, they're absolutely fine to just run my slightly damp duster over, and then where I spot a bit which is particularly bad, I'll just give it a little bit of extra oomph, as it were. A little bit of extra pressure just to keep it clean. So I mentioned I'd been to see June just yesterday, and a couple of weeks before that, wife and I went and saw the new James Bond, No Time to Die. That was also very, very good, a great ending for Daniel Craig as his run as Bond. So opened it up for the next person now to take over, whoever that may be. But it's very good. And I'm looking forward to the new Matrix film, which is out in December. Also released this week was the trailer to the new Star Wars, The Book of Boba Fett. That looks pretty darn good, I gotta say. Another thing I'm looking forward to. There's some good stuff on the horizon now that production is ramped up again. After everything sort of shut down during the pandemic. Not that we're out of the pandemic, you understand, but you know what I mean. These don't need too much of a clean, they're really nice. I'm just doing the odd edges where they picked up a bit of like thumb and fingerprint dirt, you know, but it's very, very minor. But worth doing. Scarce one, this physical fitness book. I think, you know, it was that one of those sorts of covers which does pick up the dirt because it's quite light, but at the same time, you know, quite a bit of that dirt's coming up. And that's why I do this. So that's cleaned that back cover up quite a bit. It was also dirty around the edges there. So it's really made quite a difference to that one. I think that's scarce, you know. And something else which is scarce is books with a black cover, such as this one. So when a book has a black cover like this, the slightest little mark or imperfections show up really vividly. So if you see a book which is traditionally, you know, got a black cover, and this goes for dust wrappers as well, which are predominantly dark or black, and they're in excellent condition, then that is something to keep your eyes peeled for, because potentially those books are going to be good little investments and not generally around in high grade, for that one reason. Now this is a book by Robert Shaw. Is it this? It is. Is that the same guy? Is it Robert Shaw, the actor? Surely not. It looks a bit like him, though, doesn't it? But Robert Shaw, the Robert Shaw I know, is an actor. Robert Shaw, Spencer Jordan. He is an actor in plays, film. It's the same Robert Shaw. Would you believe it? Yeah, he has played in the films The Dam Busters, The Valiant, From Russia with Love, and The Ipcress File. It's the same Robert Shaw. I had no idea. You know, you recognise him from Jules? The captain of the ship. Quint, that was it. He was called Quint, wasn't he? Well, who'd have thought he'd written a book, eh? Well, blooming heck. Unbelievable. Incredible. The same Robert Shaw. Wowee. Well, I never knew he was published in Penguin. That is something I did not know. Every day is a school day. Right. I'm just going to pause the camera there then. Get this next lot packed away. We're about halfway through almost halfway through the polishing process. And a lot of these, of course, these later ones don't actually need polishing because they're matte covers. So I'm going to pause there and I shall be back in a moment. So you've missed a small batch of books there, nothing too important, some of the laminated ones. I had a slight issue with my lapel mic, so I'm just going to repeat what I just said, which was basically if you wanted to hear me sort of talk whilst walking the dog, that might be something that I can do in certain circumstances, but it would only be when I was having a real leisurely walk rather than my usual hoofing it round. But what I'd like to do mainly is do a bit more sort of stuff in and around the bookshops, the second-hand shops when I'm out and about. But you know, I don't often get the opportunity to do that, but I'd like to do more of that because I think those sorts of videos are really interesting. But yes, it shows that I've been doing this video probably a bit too long because I forgot to hit the record at one point there, so I've missed a bit of what I was doing. It's my own fault because I could have really split this lot into two parts, but it is what it is. As I said, it may be this extra long edition this time, maybe all you're going to get, because I may not have a chance to do one because November is looking quite, I've not picked up anything really in November, so there may not be much to cover next month, which is fine because there's always my back catalogue of stuff, so there's loads on the channel to see. Just need to go back and dive into it. There's over 500 videos now, so amazing really. There we are, that's all them done. So one more stack to do, including all the Mickey Spillanes, which are going to take a little bit more extra work. So let's pull those over. So those ones here, they don't need any polishing because they cannot be polished. Slip those back over there, like so. There's all the Mickey Spillanes. We'll do them in a minute, so we might as well just finish this last little pile of Penguin books. Which won't take long. It's funny, you don't think of people laminating their books nowadays. Perhaps the odd student might do it for a textbook or something that needs a bit of extra protection, but generally it's just a practice that doesn't happen because the youngsters these days are just used to reading everything on screens or on Kindles in ebook form. They just wouldn't take the time or effort to bother laminating up a book. These laminated ones, you can put the polish straight on, and this has picked up quite a bit of mark on this one. Hasn't got it all off, but it's got most of it off. Pleased to have this Kingsley Amis. I'm a bit of a Kingsley Amis fan. I've got quite a nice run of his earlier hardbacks. I've not done a video on him yet, but it's one that I might consider, because I've got all the early hardbacks pretty much, and I've got all the early paperbacks. They're not all in great shape, but enough to do a fairly interesting video, I think. And he was a really interesting guy, Kingsley Amis. Great writer as well. Here we are then, the last 3 penguins are done and dusted. So that's good news. Right, so the time has come for those Mickey Spillanes. So I don't think we're going to have an issue. These are slidey suckers. I don't think we're going to have an issue with them. They're just, they're much dirtier than the penguins because they've come from a different source. And like traditional crime books, they're read and reread and reread. So let's sort of stand them on that. I don't expect to do wonders with these, but I do expect them to come up a bit better than what they are. My gun is quick. So, as we round out this video, which has been quite a long one, again, thank you for your continued support. If you do like these videos, of course, do please share them as much as you can. Reddit seems a very good place. I share the videos myself on Facebook, but if you can share them on your social media, and as I say, Reddit is a good spot to do it, then please do, because it gets the channel out there. Once again, thank you to all my patrons and YouTube channel members. If you'd like early access to these videos, including this very one, which my patrons will get about 10 days early, and channel members, you can do that for just $1 at patreon.com, or just hit the join button in the YouTube tab below, and you'll be helping the channel and helping me pay for the studio. Obviously you have my thanks for watching, but just watch it. It doesn't matter, you don't have to be a patron or anything like that. Just watch, and is all I really ask. It's fantastic. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad you're still finding these videos interesting after a couple of years of doing them now. There seems to be no end in sight, and lots of people finding me still for the first time, so I guess there's room to grow. And obviously don't forget, check out what a difference that makes. Do check out my dedicated, that's quite lovely, my dedicated cleaning channel, Unintentional ASMR Book Cleaning and Repair, because that has got lots more of this. It's basically this, but systematically going through all my collection, book by book, publisher by publisher, and it's off to a great start. And if you could go over and drop a sub, that would be fantastic to get me to 1,000. I really, really like that. last couple now. Seems the back covers of these were particularly bad, but that's cool. So yeah, thank you very, very much for tuning in today. If you've made it to the end, well done. It was a long old video and not without incident, but we got there in the end. And I will, of course, see you again very soon with some regular vintage paperback action. Bye.